Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It is Connor here, and we are back with your match preview. Leeds United versus Fulham in probably the biggest game of the season for Leeds United. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I've got my morning coffee. It might be the afternoon wherever you guys are. It might be a night time. The time zones they really do fluctuate when it comes to people being on this channel, so I really appreciate support from all over the world, really. Just before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping, everyone. Listen, the debrief last night, massive hit. The last 3 times we've done it, I think we've got like nearly 50,000 views combined. So thank you so much. We've got a ton of subscribers off it. So many comments last night. So thank you. The debrief is flying. Really, really appreciate it. Just a quick reminder with the debrief, everyone. Next week, on probably Monday, no, it will be Monday, we are going to be doing a TalkSport-esque show, and this is how we're going to be going forward with the debrief. For around about 20 to 25 minutes, we're going to get your thoughts. Me and Brownie are going to be sat there hosting it, obviously, and you're going to come in. You're just going to, say your thoughts on exactly what's going on with Leeds United. I'm really interested to hear that interaction from you guys, not just on the comments, but vocally as well and visibly. So yeah, that's going to be really fun as well. If you want the debrief extra, yes, everybody, the debrief extra, where me and Brownie take a topic with what's going on at Leeds United at the minute, go on for another 20 minutes on the Patreon account. The link's in the description below. The first episode of the show was on last night, and as well, everyone, we do have, I'll flash it up at the end, but we do have a BETMATE winning post as well this weekend. We've got Leeds United versus Fulham. The code is in the description below. My team is interesting this week, but you've got the chance to win 600 quid. It's definitely worth getting involved. As I say, everyone, the description, the links in the description below. Download that. 1 Leeds 5, you get a free £5 bet as well. And just get involved in the code below. Yeah, check that one out, everybody. Going to get into some of your comments straight off the bat. Morning all. Hello, Katrina. Find out tomorrow. Clearly not working. Players have no clue when trigger the press. Haven't bought it over 90 minutes and no idea how we're trying to score. Villa made the decision this week, and then it will save them more time to adapt. Yeah, I can't disagree with that one. It's going to be a fascinating game for Jesse Marsch. Ryan's in the building and saying, does anyone actually think we will win tomorrow? It is damning at the minute, isn't it, Ryan, when you're looking at Leeds and how we're going to go about it, really, how we're going to go about it and how we're going to, be able to get the win. It's looking a little bit bleak at the minute. And I think Fulham, it's going to be a tough one because Fulham, I mean, we'll get into I'm just getting up their last few fixtures at the minute. Let me just bear with me, guys. Obviously, we are doing this live. But the Fulham results, and I wanted to check on the away results in particular as well, but they've obviously beaten Aston Villa 3-0. They've lost away at West Ham, obviously in London, 3-1. Drawn with Bournemouth, who are doing very well this season. Got smashed up by Fulham. Beat Forest away. Lost narrowly to Arsenal as well, and Tottenham. So, they've got wins in there against Brighton. Obviously, they've beaten Brentford. They've drawn to Liverpool as well. So, they've had a really good start on their standards. They should have beaten Wolves away as well. Mitrovic missed a penalty. So there's a lot to discuss really when it comes to Fulham and how good they've actually been this season. But I'm not 100% sure we should be focusing on Fulham in this preview. I think the focus should be on Leeds United and what exactly we're going to be doing going forward here, and if we're going to be able to get a result. And it is do or die for Jesse Marsch for me. I think we've got into a period where He simply has to win. Me and Brownie were talking about it the other night, and if he doesn't win, we are in trouble. We are in trouble. He's in trouble. We are in trouble. I don't think there's no bones to be made about that one. There's no disagreements there. Jesse has to win this game. Jesse has to win this game. There's no reason why getting a draw is acceptable, because it's not. We should not be getting a draw in this game for me. It should be a win, and we've got to dominate as well. We've got to go into this game, and it can't just be Leeds United going into this one and having the first 10 minutes, everyone. It can't be that. It can't be going in and having the first 10 minutes and that be it. We've got to go in there and we've got to dominate, and they've got to put in a performance, because if they don't put in a performance, the owners are going to be watching on. It'll be fascinating to see if Lowy's there. It'll be fascinating to see if some of the 49ers are there as well. Yeah, I mean, everyone's like, oh well, it doesn't matter because they've backed him. They've backed him, but this is what happens all the time with managers. They get backed publicly, obviously, because the owners know that there's pressure on them. They know that there's pressure on them. But how would you start this game, everyone? That's what I'm interested to hear today. How would you start? Because because for me, you just go back to the traditional 11. I probably would bring Jack Harrison in for this, and my screams for Joe Gelhardt are just going to get quieter and quieter. There's no point anymore because he's probably not going to feature, so I don't see the point in talking about him. So you bring Jack Harrison in, who's hopefully chomping at the bit a little bit. I was saying last night on the show as well to Brownie, the problem is with him being inverted at the minute, he's not that natural winger which we saw under Bielsa and what he was brought in for, because of his talent, at Man City and obviously Middlesbrough and abroad in the States. He was brought in as an out-and-out winger, a high-flying winger, and that's not what he is at the minute. He's inverted, and you can definitely see that Sinisterra is taken to that position a lot more. That's exactly what he was doing when he was playing for Feyenoord. There was a big difference there. He likes to cut inside, doesn't he, Sinisterra? As Rafinha did a little bit, but I do think Rafinha overall was a bit of a flying winger like Jack. So I think he's been restricted a little bit in the system. So it's going to be fascinating to see if he comes in, if he's going to have a good game. I will give Jack a little bit of props in terms of I do think the system, as I've just mentioned several times, is hampering him a little bit. I'll get into a few of your comments. We need a system-based manager with the players we currently have, though, because we are not good enough to compete in a traditional formation. If we are to win tomorrow, then we have to leave to two weakest left backs out in Diego and Firpo. Other teams see that on the team sheet before and know how to hurt us. Of course they do, Mark. You bang on, mate. And I think this is it. There's a lot of people comparing us to Aston Villa. We're not like Aston Villa. We can't operate like Aston Villa. We don't have as much money as Aston Villa. And not only that, everybody, but we don't have the players available. There's a lot of people talking about, no, we're not going to talk about managerial next ups and who we can get next and who the target is. I want to focus on this game, but you can't really be discussing Pochettino because Pochettino is going to want to come into a club with a budget, right? He's going to want to come into a club with a budget. He's going to want to come into a club where he looks at the players, i.e. Phil Coutinho, i.e. Emi Buendia, i.e. Leon Bailey, Jacob Ramsey, Danny Ings, Watkins, players like that who are really good talents and really good players, and he's going to be able to work with them. He's not going to want to come into Leeds where we really don't have the depth, the quality and depth. I just can't imagine it being an attractive prospect for a top manager. I got hounded out for talking about Knutson yesterday, who I think is a fantastic manager, doing really well on the European setting, and people are just telling me that they don't want a nobody in Leeds United. Well, you've got to go somewhere for me. You've got to go somewhere, and I think Leeds United we don't really have that luxury of being able to demand a top level manager anymore, and we don't want to talk about that, but the reason I'm talking about that, everybody, is because I think that's what's going to happen. I think we win this weekend. I still think the writing is on the wall for Jesse Marsch. When an away crowd turns like that, it's always going to be on the teetering balance unless Jesse goes on a mad run, and I hope he does. I really, really hope he does. And if he goes on a mad run, those calls are going to quell. But if he's to win this game, and then we're to lose the next one heavily, and then we're to lose another one, then lose, then draw. We can't get into this pattern. We can't get into this constant trend of winning one in 5-6 games. I mean, we've not won in 2 months. We've not won since August at the minute. So a lot of people last night, what I found really interesting on the debrief, were talking about it being unfair that we're not looking at Victor Orta, and unfair that we're not looking at Radrizzani, and unfair that we're not looking at the Angus Kinnears, the hierarchy. We 100% are. We 100% are as fans looking at them, because it's it's just more errors from that lot, which we're all used to now. We're all used to now, and I agree with so many people that they've taken us as far as we can go. I'd just like to hear maybe a few more noises from the San Francisco 49ers in terms of what's going on next. But as the thumbnail suggests, everyone, this is do or die for Jesse. I think if he loses this game, I don't care what the board are saying. I don't care that they're coming out at the minute and saying, we support him, we're going to give him a chance. If he loses this game, for me, and I don't want to say this, I really like Marsch. I really, really like Marsch. But I don't see how it gets better. I don't see, with the style of play and how easy we are to figure out, how this gets better. If there was a little bit more of, if there was a little bit more pragmatism, if, there was a plan B or a plan C, and I know a lot of people don't like that. They like plan A. And Bielsa was all about that, wasn't he? And that was my frustration with Bielsa. It's plan A or nothing. And I understand that having a plan B and a plan C, you might think to yourself, well, you shouldn't have a plan B and a plan C. You shouldn't do that. But plan B and plan C can come in the form of substitutions. It can be as basic as that. It can be as basic as going from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-2-2-2. or vice versa, because ideally you want to play with more width, in my opinion anyway. But yeah, I just see this narrow system being problematic for Leeds going forward. And I think the Red Bull, the traditional Red Bull system, which is Jesse Marsch, it's not the new imprint on the Red Bull system. It's the old Red Bull system, which is very much like this now, what we're seeing in the Premier League. There's a reason why you don't see it in the Premier League, because there's a lack of control, there's a lack of dominance, and there's a lack of possession, which you can't have in the Premier League. If you're to hit the top 10, you have to control and dominate certain games. You have to be coming up against Fulham. You have to be coming up against Bournemouth. You have to be coming up against Leicester with where they are in the table, with the amount of injuries. They've got James Maddison out, and you've got to control these games. Yes, you're going to get heavily beaten by the Cities and the Liverpool. Every team in world football does, really. Arsenal, Tottenham, they're always going to be difficult to beat. But those other 14 teams you've got to compete against, you've got to be good against, you've got to get points against. Keep getting your comments in, everybody. Play 10 at the back across the goal line. Justin, always a legend in here, reminded me, smash the like, everyone. I really appreciate it, everyone. With the content that's flying out at the minute, as you can see, bags under my eyes. We're stacking content on the Patreon. We're trying to stack content on the main channel as well. So I really appreciate a like. I do have a full-time job as well, so this can turn into 12, 14-hour days sometimes. So a like would be really appreciated. And before as well, guys, I've spoken to you guys this weekend about, even though Leeds are making you miserable, gamble responsibly, of course, but for £3, you can get involved in fantasy football this weekend with BETMATE, One Leeds Fantasy League, which has been going all season. These guys are absolutely fantastic. £3 entry, and guess what, everybody? There, if you click the link in the description below, on entry, if you type in One Leeds 5 in capital letters, you get a free £5 bet. This is my side for this week. I've gone Ramsdale, Ben White, Cooper, Buendia as captain. I've gone Tielemans, Barnes, and Mitro up top, which, say what you feel. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I'm not putting too many Leeds players in there because I'm just too nervous. Glad to catch you live, my man. Thank you, Jay. Hope you're good, my friend. The damage has been done. Even a win won't save him in his job. Burry says it's the tactical inflexibility that's killing us. A little bit like at the end of Bielsa's reign, teams just know how to play against this system. So we need to be able to mix it up and play with width. I agree, Burry, and I think a lot of teams, I think we could play with width. I think we've got the ability to play with width, and I think that's the frustrating thing at the minute. We saw last season with Marsch, in the last 12 games, where he only picked up 3 wins, by the way. The last 12 games, it was the Rafinha show, I fully believe, and this is why I cannot stand disrespect on Rafinha's name. He kept us up. Rafinha kept us up last season. If we didn't have him in that squad, you can talk about your Harrisons, you can talk about this, that, and the other. If you didn't have Rafinha in that side, we'd have been down. So it's difficult to look at that and think that was Jesse Marsch. It's really difficult because you looked at last season, those last 12 games, and was there a tactical... Did you look at Leeds and think that's our identity because we'd be playing out wide? We'd then be playing centrally. There'd be games where we'd want the ball and try build up from the back, but there was other games where we didn't want the ball and we'd hoof it up. Now, that's not tactical flexibility for me. There's a fine line between being tactically flexible and tactically inflexible. That's, especially when the press is very on and off, that's the team not knowing what they're doing for me. That's the team not knowing what they're doing. I think with tactical flexibility, you understand that there's a variance in plans. It's very clear. I think last season, even the last 12 games, it was all about getting the points. It was all about getting the points to survive. And Jesse Marsch achieved that, and we did survive. But inside 22, 23 games, what it's been now, which is half a season, including the summer transfer window, where 80% of it has been good because, you've got a lot of your bodies in. I think you've got to show a little bit more. And I'm really, really frustrated that he's not been backed in terms of the striker. That's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Still think the left back's a joke as well. Left back, I'm not too sure on because he seemed really happy and seems really happy with Struijk at left back, which is another conversation. But striker, I really, really feel for him because we've got no end product. And there's been a lot of fine margins in these games, a lot of fine margins where it's been narrow score lines. And if you've had a decent striker in there, that could have won you the game. We might not be having this conversation. But the substitutions, the starting lineups, the in-game management, the lack of possession, as I've said before, the lack of control, I think is unsustainable. And if it's unsustainable now, but we pick up a win at the weekend, that seems like a real outlier. Because unless we go on a run, it's just going to happen again. And that's where I'm at the minute. That's where I'm at with Jesse. Even though I'm a massive backer of him, I've backed him on this channel several times when people have been, hampering him and going after him. But I just don't see this turning round for him, even if we got a win tomorrow. Loads of comments flying in. Morning, Connor. Hope all is well. Hiya, AJ. Is Strout back tomorrow? He is, Joel. Yeah, 100% he's back. But yeah, I mean, this is where me and Brownie disagree as well. Brownie is very much a Bielsa stan, if you will, and I thought Bielsa should have gone. I thought Bielsa should have gone because I think he was taking us down. He was 100% taking us down. There was no, for me, tactical flexibility with Marcelo Bielsa, with the great one. He was playing one way and one way only. You forget the Tottenham Hotspur game where Tottenham could have had 10 goals. Man United could have had 15 goals against us. Liverpool could have had 15. City could have had 15. That's what it was like against the top sides. And yes, we beat teams in and around us. Of course we did. But overall, it was a very difficult project to see being sustainable, to see us growing, because we just get tonked and our goal difference. I mean, we let 70 goals in when he was sacked, I believe it was. 70 goals. We conceded 25 in a month. And a lot of injuries were there with Bielsa, 100%, which was difficult, but there wasn't any tactical flexibility. There was no real defensive nature when it came to playing against the big teams, and there was no real sturdiness or structure, I thought, under Marcelo Bielsa at the latter stage. So you look at it right now, Leeds fans, and you look at where we've been at, and it's been 18 months of real tough football to watch. So I think we need some good times coming back. Great to see from New Zealand. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. Sinister and Nonto up front. I reckon Marsch should manage from the gantry like he did for Arsenal. I don't miss the 7. I never understood that, John. I never understood it, but because it was Bielsa. The 7-0s and the 6-0s. Me and Brownie used to have massive arguments. I think on the 7-0, we're having a little debate, I should say, a heated debate. And Brownie was essentially coming back and I thought he was blaming everything else but the result, but the tactical plan. And, he was saying, look at the injuries, look at the state of the squad, which was, it was a good debate to have, to be honest with you. But Brownie would give him a lot of leeway. He had credit in the bank, Bielsa. But like Brownie quite rightly said, has Marsch got that credit in the bank? He hasn't. He kept us up, of course he did, but football is a fickle business. Okay, let's get on to... Connor Mitchell said, what formation would you play against Fulham? I'd go with the same, mate. I just think there needs to be straight personnel changes, and I think there needs to be a little bit like Norwich last season, where we just went for it, but I think that was down to Rafinha. Rafinha was just like, I'm going wide. I don't care. I'm going wide. Give me the ball, and I'll see what I can do. And that was where, in my opinion, Rafinha kept us up. He almost ignored, I thought, what Jesse Marsch was saying and did his own thing, because the rest of the team were almost playing to a structure, but Rafinha was almost doing that Messi role at Barcelona where he was just free roaming and doing what he wanted to do out wide. So I would imprint a lot of tactical flexibility here, and I would say just go and express yourself. Play the way you need to play going forward. And, guys, I'm not a manager. Jesse will have his own. I think it frustrates me a little bit when people come in here and they ask me for solutions as if I'm getting paid for this stuff. Connor, I'm not saying you've done that, by the way, mate. But in terms of Jesse's got to figure out, that's his job. That's what he gets paid the big bucks for. But yeah, I would say, go be expansive, be expressive, which you saw last season. And I would make just really simple adjustments. Liam Cooper comes back in. You cannot start with a left side of Llorente and Firpo. It's not even, that wouldn't even work in the Championship. They get bullied in the Championship. Both players aren't good enough. They shouldn't be at Leeds United. They shouldn't be in the Premier League. You've got to go with Liam Cooper there, who I'm not a massive fan of, but you've got to go with Coops there. And then left back, you've got to go Strout. And then at least would be a bit more sturdy. I prefer that left side, even though Strout should be at centre back. It's a joke. We should have a left back at the club. And then I would be going with, I would probably bring Jack in for this, just because of the magnitude of the game, what it means. Jack is that traditional lad who's been at Leeds now. He's played in multiple systems. He's clearly one of our better players, and he needs to up his performances because they've not been good enough in the past 6 games. 6, 7 games against easier opponents than he's going to face, by the way. This is why I always have spoken about Jack Harrison being a cluster player and a hot and cold player. People don't like it because they're just real the stats to me. Oh, he's had 11 goal contributions. He's had 22 goals. Same as Rafinha. Not on the same level because he clusters goals. Did it in January last season where it was the West Ham and the Burnley fixtures, and I think he got about 6 goal contributions there, 5-6 goal contributions. Then he went on a barren spell. Okay, that's what happens with Jack Harrison. Rafinha completely different, and I think Sinisterra will be different as well. So overall, everybody, I would just make subtle changes, ask them to be a little bit more expressive and expansive, and see what happens. That's what I'd say. Daniel Bianco, thank you so much for your super chat, mate. It's mental that it already feels like the Norwich game. It is, mate, and it is for Marsch. It is because it is for Marsch. Leeds can save themselves. Okay, we're not down. But if this continues, the way we are playing, the way the system is, the almost dishevelled look about the manager, dishevelled look about the players at the minute, heads down. I mean, that was the worrying thing as well, everybody. I think for me, the worrying thing is when Leicester went 2-0 up on 35, I've not seen this with the Leeds side in a long time, heads went down. Okay, and they were just nonchalantly playing it between the back four. No leader, no spirit, nothing on the pitch. There was no shouting. There was no getting up in the referee's face. There was no passion, I thought. And then that happened from the 75th minute onwards. We saw a little spurt of it at the start of the second half. That's not acceptable. You can't be having that in a Premier League game. You'll just get torn apart. You'll get absolutely torn apart. You have to have passion. You have to have leaders on the pitch as well that are going to get you through the dark times. And to be fair, towards the back end of last season, I thought we had a little bit of that. And there was a lot of spirit. But right now, it is do or die. It is do or die. We can change our fortunes right now. But it's going to take a hell of a mountain push from Jesse Marsch. A hell of a mountain push. And it's also going to take a lot from the players. But they've got to start standing up and be counted. A lot of them shouldn't be in the Premier League. Okay, so they've got to realise that. They've got to realise, look, I'm not getting any other chances with any other clubs here. I'm in the Premier League with Leeds United. Premier League massive, Leeds United massive, and I'm here somehow. So I've got to put everything on the line here. Cape, sorry mate if I murdered your name. Play mistake has cost us. I think people blame Marsch too much. Why are we shouting for Bielsa all the time? There's a reason he got sacked. That's the past. Let's look at the future. This is an argument I was having last night, kept with Brownie. I am sick of the Bielsa stuff. I don't understand why the crowd are chanting Marcelo Bielsa. Are we Marcelo Bielsa FC? Do we live in the past? He was incredible. What he did for Leeds United was insane. I don't know why we have to do this. It's almost like, when you're patting a child, you know what I mean? When he's going for his first dentist trip, it's like you're patting a child just to, massage it. It's fine, it's okay. We'll mention Marcelo Bielsa, it's okay. We have to mention Marcelo Bielsa every single minute. He's there on my wall. We've got an Argentina strip here as well. We all love him. But we don't have to talk about Bielsa every time just to make everybody feel good. I don't think we need to chant Marcelo Bielsa every time, unless it's one of those things where you chanted about Marcelo Bielsa because you just loved him, which I understand, but it's not. Leeds fans bring out this chant at the Villa game last season. We bring this chant out again in the Brighton game last season. And I understand, I get this frustration, but we've got to look to the future. We've got to look. There is a life after Marcelo Bielsa. And at the end of the day, when Bielsa was here, we were 18th in the form table, getting tonked week in, week out. There were injuries, but we're still getting tonked. If you're beating Marsch with the stick of it's a results-based business, it's you sack him on that. You had to do the same with Marcelo Bielsa. So yeah, I'm in complete agreement, Kate. And people saying, I want Bielsa back. What? Yeah, and you see stuff online, Kate. People prefer Bielsa to Leeds United. It's mental. And that's where I'm just like, you're not a Leeds fan. You're not a proper Leeds fan. You can appreciate what he's done, of course you can, but you've got to move. As Michael says, you've got to go to the future. Albab, we are allowed to chant Leeds United's legend. There's context, though, There's context. It's chanted when the Leeds United are losing, when Leeds United are suffering, when there's problems, as if Marcelo Bielsa shouldn't be sacked. The whole thing last season was it was directed at the board who were at the game. That's why Leeds fans were chanting it. It was Marcelo Bielsa chanted at the board because they didn't feel he should be sacked. He should have been sacked because of the run that we were on. Apply context is what I'm saying. If Leeds fans are singing Marcelo Bielsa when we're winning, when we're doing this, that, and the other. Fantastic, incredible. That's cool with me. That's fine. But it's only ever sung when we're in dark times, and it's almost like a sort of a whipping stick at the board. It's like you shouldn't have sacked him because this is what we're getting now. That's the context. But yeah. Okay. Just saw a comment on Leeds Live saying we should drop Rocker for Click. I mean, that would be staggering. This is it, mate. It's not just a Bielsa thing. It's Matthias Click, it's Liam Cooper, it's Luke Ayling, it's Adam Forshaw. You can even chuck Paddy Bamford in there. Leeds fans, and a lot of football fans, isn't just Leeds fans, it's me being included in the past as well. Look at what's happened 4 years ago when these players were at the pomp, when they were brilliant for Leeds, and they think that's going to happen again in the best league in the world when they're 4 years older. I mean, Matthias Click is done. That substitution every time should be Darko JB. Should be Darko JB every time. A ball carrier, someone who's 6'2", 6'3", looks excellent in the 21s. There's a lot of promise. Has come from Manchester City. Was in a part exchange deal with Calvin Phillips. Absolutely spoken in such high regard from Manchester City. And I know, because I work in that sphere, the Manchester City sphere. So, yeah, he's spoken of highly. But we still want to bring on Matthias Click, and that's another problem. It's just a token substitution from Jesse Marsch. Matthias Click giving Joe Gelhardt no minutes, taking off your best players in Sinistera. Bamford. Sorry, mate. I'm waffling again. Connor, it's Ian Waters. Connor, who would you want in charge for a one-off game with Fulham? Jesse or Massa? Yeah, okay. I mean, the thing is, Ian, I'd be really contradictory there if I said Jesse, because I don't feel this style of football is going to hurt many teams. Whereas Marcelo Bielsa's style of football, when Leeds were on pomp, and you look at our record against the bottom sides as well, when we were competing against them in the Premier League, was always very good. So you'd want Bielsa obviously in a one-off game, but it's not context, is it, mate? It's not context again. But yeah. JB isn't ready, not even close. Okay, fair enough. It was Somerville, I guess. And is Click miles better than Darko JB? I'm not sure. I'm feeling that one, mate. Presumably, sorry, mate. I'm just trying to find that. Presumably, even when we're getting pumped by the big teams, we still cause them problems going forward. Just a lack of quality to put the ball in the net. Can't disagree with that, mate. Presumably, Nyonto not being selected means Marsch thinks that Fulham are better than the England World Cup squad. Everyone needs to look at Brighton. It says Esteban Verde, great name. They had 3 seasons with Potter. First 2 relegation battles, and third they finished 9th. As hard as they say, they look decent now. The thing is, Esteban, whilst I would agree with that, Brighton still had a very good team. They still had a very good recruitment process. And Brighton for years were like that. It wasn't just 3 years. It was that Brighton have been like that for multiple years. It's only really been the last 2 seasons where they've really started to progress. But their recruitment team is extremely good. They brought in players unknown, similarly to Brentford as well. It's a little bit of a money ball approach. Brought in players who then they would be able to sell on for big money. You know, I guess a classic example of that is Neil Maupay. They brought in very, very decent talents. Now, when you look at the Leeds side, so they still had an abundance of quality as well, Brighton, and they were very, very unlucky. For years and years and years, Brighton have still been an excellent team to watch, but they've just not had a finisher, which has meant a lot of the time that they're in a relegation battle, but they haven't really been in a relegation battle because they've got enough quality. Their recruitment team has stacked that squad for years now. Some of those players who are still playing today in that first 11 have been with Brighton for 4 or 5 years. They've got a real good recruitment strategy. Hence why you've got, is it Ashworth or Ashdown? I don't know his name. The recruitment director who's been poached by Newcastle because they want that strategy. They want his analysts, his statisticians, all this sort of stuff in and around him to be able to do the same thing with Newcastle with their budget. So Brighton are a very different setup to Leeds United, a massively different. They've got a lot more quality at their disposal. If Somerville is good enough to start, this is what I'm saying, Nick. I don't understand how Somerville's good enough, but JB isn't. I guess that's he's a ball carrier, JB, and he's very good under pressure. That's more than what Matthias Click is. Esteban, sorry, I've already mentioned your comment. The guys, there's nearly 500 of you in the building. We're still going live. Just getting your thoughts on Jesse Marsch and the system at the minute and everything that's going on. We've not touched on Fulham that much because it's not about Fulham this weekend. It's about Leeds United. It's about Leeds United and it's about Jesse Marsch. There's nearly 500 of you in the building on a Saturday at 11:15. We're pumping videos out at the minute. Please like the video. If you don't like the video, it doesn't show up for anybody else, and it's just pointless me doing it, really. So if there's 500 of you in the building, just hit the like. It's free as well, and I really appreciate that. JC says JB's a baller. Seen the 21s a few times this year. Him and Perkins and Drama stand head and shoulders above everyone else. Definitely ready for the first team. Yeah, exactly, Jay. They don't even have to start, mate. They don't even have to start. Just on the bench, just an option. Just why do we revert back to the same thing every single time? The team doesn't evolve. The team is so fragile when it comes to depth. This is what me and Brownie were arguing last night a little bit about it. Brownie thinks the squad's got a lot better, and it has got a lot better when you look at that midfield, when you look at other members of the squad. But then you look at other parts of the squad and you think it's still as weak because these depth options, Matthias Klick, Adam Forshaw when he's available, Luke Ayling, players of that ilk, it's not great depth. It's not great depth when you look at the Premier League. It's really not, you know. Problem is Orta, not Jesse. I can't disagree with that. And I think that the annoying thing about this, everyone, is people are almost like it's either one or the other. It's not. Jesse's poor at the minute. There's no getting around that. Jesse is extremely poor at the minute. Managerial decisions which haven't gone well. He's won 6 games in 23. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. Sorry, that's just not good enough. That is not good enough. You can get judged on that. Any team in the world will judge their manager on that. All right, and they're giving him even more time. They've given him a window, so they've put the backing into Jesse Marsch. But Leeds cannot afford for this to go wrong. They brought in his players. You know, they've really invested in him. They've backed him publicly multiple times. It's not really a Gerrard situation at Villa where one man wanted Gerrard in, Perslow. So it's this is huge. It's a huge game for him. It's a huge game for Leeds United because this cannot go wrong. And I don't want to come on here and be like Marsch out because I'm not Marsch out. I just struggle to see where this turns round. I'll go through these. Thomason, Poch is never coming to Leeds. Tuchel's never coming to Leeds. Dyche is a short-term option who plays backwards football. Bruno Lage had a terrible record at Wolves, so I wouldn't take him. I'm probably of higher standard than that. I'll throw Gerrard in there as well. At the back end of Gerrard's tenure at Rangers, they wanted him out. His entire Villa project hasn't gone well. It's been an ego boost for him. I don't understand why if someone's failed at Villa who are below us, we'd then take them. I don't understand where expectations are at there. Just because Gerrard was a good footballer doesn't mean he's going to be a good manager. Scott Parker, I do like Scott Parker, but I don't think that connection with Leeds will go well with the fans. Connor Ratcliffe, hey Connor, says, for me, Jesse has to stay. Gelhardt or Nyonso to start alongside Bamford. I like Strauch on the left. He's defensively sharp and plays a good pass. And Firpo and Llorente to never put a Leeds shirt on again. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Hate to say it, but a manager like Fergie knew when it was time to dismantle a team, and then also knew how to rebuild one also. That's why he was so good. Exactly, you know, and that's the world-class manager thing, though, isn't it? I don't really think you can compare Jesse to him, though, but I get the comparison, mate. Getting to a few more comments. This was going to be short, but shock, I've gone on for about 4 hours. Gerrard comes with Gary Mack. Surely you take Gary Mack somewhere in TA, but Gerrard doesn't come with Beale, Michael Beale, who's done it, who was with him at Rangers, and Michael Beale apparently is the brains behind the situation, the brains behind everything that's happened with Steven Gerrard. Gerrard doesn't even take training. That's a fact. You know, I know that for a fact. Gerrard doesn't even take training. Michael Beale used to take his training from Gary Mack, used to take his training from him, obviously. But Beale has now left Steven Gerrard, and shock, it's all gone wrong. It's all gone wrong for Steven Gerrard very, very quickly. I'm a Rangers fan. Beale is the man. Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. There's 500 of you in the building. Before you go, make sure you like the video. We've got more content coming. We've got Generation Leeds with my old man on the Patreon account. If you want some bonus content, hit the link down below, everybody. That's for you to get that. It's only a £5 a month, and I'm putting out about 12 videos a month extra. So make sure you hit that. Hit the BetMate link, everyone. Honestly, well worth it. And if you're a little bit downtrodden this weekend, if you get involved in this, it's £3. But with the code 1Leeds5, you get a free fiver in, so you'll be able to get into this one pretty easily. The code is there. Download BetMate. The link's in the description below. And we're going to be back with a review of the game. We're going to be back with real analysis and yeah. I really appreciate your support, guys, and I will see you very, very soon. As I say, like the video, make sure you comment and subscribe again, because I always look at every single one of your comments, and I will see you in a bit. Cheers.